Thursday, March the 2nd, 2023, and I'm down in the Surrey Hills today, Hazelmere, undertaking book 1, walk 44, which interestingly enough I did very close in arrears to the walk I did last week. So that was November 2010. So this is a rewalk of that walk done 12.5 years ago, but I'm doing it in reverse today. Thanks to GPX technology, I'm able to do that. So this is book 1, walk 44, Whitley to Hazelmere in reverse. Got a good day's walking weather today. Blue skies, no rain forecast, chilly northeasterly breeze mind. It's about 6 degrees presently. So I know this will be mainly wooded walk again. What it's like underfoot remains to be seen, but I'm not worried. So let's get cracking. It's around 12:30 now. This is a 9.5 miler, so not too long. Should be done by 5ish again. Let's press on. So immediately outside the station we've got this information panel, Discover Hazelmere, and tells us that we're on the South Downs Way here in the National Park. Google that for more information if you so wish. As we walk through the town, we're following the Serpent Trail. The route out of town passes a number of familiar sites: Hemingways, Waitrose and Darnley's just here on my right, the tea rooms. Coming up Well Lane obviously leads to the town well. Which is just here on my left. Dipping well. There you go. And then almost immediately we're into National Trust lands, which surround Hazelmere, thanks to one of the creators of the National Trust, who made sure that his hometown was well surrounded with National Trust land. And as you can hear in the background, plenty of birdsong, wrens, robins, and if I'm not mistaken, here's a hedge sparrow dunnock in there as well. Possibly a whitethroat. Entering Swan Barn Farm, Hazelmere's hidden gem. Still on the Serpent Trail. Passing an information panel here about speckled wood, which is still on the Swan Barn Farm estate. There is a bit more water down there in this county presently, as I cross over the first of today's little footbridges into Whitley Copse and Mariner's Rue. Got a nuthatch somewhere over there. It's obviously very much their time of the year. footpath surfaces thus far are not bad, but then again we are on trust lands and they are very good at or with their paths. They even provide a kind of boardwalk here, but where tree roots protrude, clearly there's no boardwalk. So very conservation minded, as you'd expect. So let's see if there are any cattle grazing. No cattle in that field. Blue tit in the background. Got bean-filled copse on my left here, per the map. And the higher walking today is actually at this end of the walk, although you wouldn't be able to tell it. Height range of 160 odd to 500 odd today. Lower end of 500 as well. Presently around 373, so I've already descended. Entering the small hamlet of Holdfast. Leaving Holdfast by the White House here. Walking up the driveway to Imbums farm and cottages. So again, no mud on this section. And we're far enough away from Gatwick not to have any jet noise interference either, which is very pleasant. Interesting bird box there. Haven't seen one of those before. I wonder if that's for hawks as opposed to owls. Lovely farmhouse, Imbums farm. Wonderful. It's got a big lake in front of it as well here, but can't get a clear view presently. Let's see. So we're on the Furnace Place estate, which tells you a lot about the heritage of this area. By all accounts, a lot of stained glass used to be made in this area, so I read. And because it's so isolated, it was able to continue during the plague. So you could research that if you wish to learn a bit more. Conveniently situated log here to enjoy the lake view, and this is said view. I guess it's a large pond as opposed to a lake. A couple of Canada geese on it in the far corner over there, out of eye shot now, and some coots, as you may have heard. Yep, totally agree with that. Keep your dogs on leads. And that of humans getting attacked recently is increasing as well. So take this bridleway just in front of this bungalow here, turning right, not the three-armed finger post that I've just passed on my right as well, with the Imbums farm board on it. Easy mistake to make, as I nearly did. As we approach Newhouse Great Copse ahead of us there, per the map. Wind's beginning to pick up. And as I say, it's a cool, well in fact it's chill, northeasterly today. Now into Frillinghurst Wood with what looks like newer plantations of birch in amongst some old oak. But surprisingly there's not so much bird song in here, which means I now can hear a little bit of jet noise in the background. Yeah, there are some little streams here in the middle of the wood that haven't got much water in at all. Yet ironically, just before I cross over another footbridge, this is the muddiest section I've encountered thus far. Generally it's been pretty good underfoot due to the lack of rainfall really. So there you have it as I'm stood on the footbridge. Not as high as it could be, as you can tell by that shingle bank there. Got some nice pines here of some kind. Norway spruce. Not sure. Somebody can enlighten me. Passing a very new property here, which seems very environmentally friendly. Could have done something about the roof, mind you. Putting some turfs on it or something like that. Next to Frillinghurst Farm here, where we take a right. Now I hope he's not going to get his head stuck there. Getting your horns through it is one thing, but getting them back through that fence is another. And he's clearly done that before, because what he does, instead of reversing out, turns his head to one side and goes out sideways, because he knows the hole size is greater in its width. Not stupid, these goats, are they? So as we leave Frillinghurst, more quiet lane walking. Though having said that, an avocado delivery is just taking place behind me. What else would you expect in this area? So just beyond Dell Farm on my left, we take this public footpath towards Fursfield on the map. Yeah, this is definitely buzzard country. I haven't seen any kites today, and the reason being, I think, is because it's too wooded. In my humble experience, I believe kites prefer more open terrain, like the Chilterns, whereas the buzzards, being eaters of live birds, float around the treetops and whip the youngsters and adults from the trees, whereas kites scavenge and obviously are better suited to open terrain, I feel. Just an observation. I might be wrong, but just something I've noticed over the years. And presently I'm in more open terrain, which is why I mentioned that, at a point near Langhurst Manor on the map. Now entering 7 Acre Copse, another ancient mixed woodland. And as you can still see, with good paths underfoot. Lots of nasty rhododendron about. Probably not trust property that I'm stood on at the moment. So now in the village of Sydenhurst, where we follow this lane, Mill Lane, all the way into Chiddingfold, where I planned stopping for lunch at the Church of St Mary's. St Mary's comes into view as we enter Chiddingfold. Now I have an extra bit of business to do in this village, which I will explain later. So we come out opposite Young's Butchers, as you can see here, with the Swan Inn very nearby. That's a backup pub if you can't get into the recommended one, which is the Crown Inn, opposite the church. With the Half Crown Inn just down below. A very interesting green feature in amongst the gravestones, which is a room for hire apparently. And there you go. Nice row of crocus, and the daffs are coming out now as well, as you can see. Lovely. Right, let's find a pew. Wonderful. Crocus everywhere. So I wonder how they got permission to build that. As you can see, there are still some headstones at the base of it, or the foot of it, but they must have had to have moved some to get that in. It is a very large cemetery, wonderfully wild as well. There is a seat there, I notice, but I'm not going to take that one. This is the back of the church, St Mary's. I'm going to take this one here in loving memory of Hugh Draper. 1952 to 2015. So not a particularly long life. God rest your soul. Not in the sun, unfortunately, but that clock, which is interesting, is accurate. Right, 3 o'clock, almost on the button. Time to press on. Interesting, I wonder what that other language is there. Not Ukrainian, I wonder. There goes the church bells. And there's another of those numbers at the top, but this time chalked on. Last week we saw it done in studs. It's quite amazing, really. Yeah. Wonderful. Got some background music in here. And the heating's on as well. I think this is the first church I've walked into where there's been background music. And as you'd expect in this area, stained glass, very top-notch quality. Chiddingfold was the centre of the stained glass industry once upon a time, I read. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a little model here of the church and its very large churchyard and that little eco room with its grass roof. Maybe that bungalow that I saw earlier and commented on could have followed their example with the grass roof. Here's the church organ, a Hill, Norman and Beard organ, apparently, if that means anything to anybody. (1968). Getting the light in the way here, but the refurbishment of the organ in 2014 was kindly paid for by the Friends of St Mary's with an additional donation from the Chiddingfold Community Fund. Wonderful memorial book here. And as I say, that's why I queried if it was Ukrainian, because there are some interesting names here, and not too far adrift there was a I read that there was a Ukrainian care home, which ironically was sold off several years ago. Wonderful roll of honour there. Greater number in the First World War for sure. Amazingly bigger. Probably had repercussions for the next generation, hence fewer men for the Second World War. Wonderful piece of music in the background, eh? Wonderful. So as we leave St Mary's, I'm going to come off the GPX track slightly to visit a house that I missed 12.5 years ago. I was aware of it, but didn't know the exact address, but I do now, and I'll explain all when I get there. But we do a left here up Coxcomb Lane, which, as I say, is off the GPX track slightly. By all accounts, the Crown Inn gets very busy and needs booking a week ahead, but it doesn't look very busy today. Nice village sign next to the duck pond here, and there are carp in there, goldfish I can see swimming around of various sizes. Now the reason for my diversion today is because this house, number 1 Lillian Place, is the former home of the rock band, punk band, whatever you want to call them, the Stranglers. Back in their formative years, they used to live in this house, rent it, apparently. But the neighbours, the Rubens, got them kicked out. And I notice now that the neighbouring house is up for sale. So, me being a big fan of said group, this is why I'm here filming this house. Missed it last time, but I was determined not to miss it this time. They would have been here in the mid-70s, I guess. Bit of a toy town or village for such a band, eh? And there you go. Yes, as I say, not the kind of place we'd expect a rock band to be hanging out, but they were from Guildford originally, I believe, some members. But yeah, very twee. Chiddingfold. Got a guide here to the churchyard, which, as I say, is a wonderful place. Really big as well. Sun's in my way that way. Celandines are out in the sunny spaces. Our onward journey continues up alongside the cemetery here, and thus far, as with last week's walk, 12.5 years have addled my memory because I can't remember much of this at all. The only bit I do remember is down by the crown and the church. Decent views around Chiddingfold. About 260 foot up here, so not that high. Nice vista though. Walking past a property here called the Downs, down a narrow alleyway at the back of houses, and that alleyway brings us out onto a place called the Downs. I'd imagine that's the higher ground over towards Hazelmere there. Glorious afternoon now. Still chilly though, 5-6 degrees with that breeze. Yeah, I've seen a mixed selection of styles and gates today. Some ancient iron kissing gates, some styles that are falling apart, and of course this preferred modern variant next to this lane where we take a right. We're at a point near Langhurst House on the map. Follow this lane now for some distance, past Pook Hill Manor on my left here. Okay, at the entrance to Coombe Court Farm. Follow the drive for a little way to rejoin the official path. Application there for something to do with a listed building, which obviously Coombe Court Farm must be. Looks like it in the distance there. About to enter another strip of woodland. And this section is sticky underfoot, no more than that. Sounds like a warning to me. I haven't heard any going off just yet. Walking over a brick bridge where again the water level looks very low. Crossing over the rail line, which presumably is the Portsmouth Waterloo line. Warning there of leaves on the line. About to enter woodland known as Hopkins Reeds. And as per usual, the old song thrush comes out. Now I read in Country Walking magazine the other day, or the Countryman magazine, let's get it right, that the song thrush sings in the morning and at dusk because they are predominantly feeders of dark areas of woodland. They're in shrubbery most of the time, and they prefer their singing when the sun is not at its peak. So I could probably agree with that from what I've noted. Footpath closure notice there about crossing of the railway line, but that's historic now. It ended Saturday the 18th of Feb, and in any case I've just crossed the railway line, no problem. Per Ardua ad Astra, let's continue. Now this section at this time of year should be absolutely deluged, but as you can see it isn't, and neither is the stream that I'm about to cross on this footbridge. Look at it, shocking. Now I reckon it's partially due to the dryish winter we keep hearing about, but it's probably more to do with the number of houses being built and the demand on the water supply in the southeast, even in places like Surrey and Sussex now. Absolutely shocking. Anyone want to buy some woodland? Mixed woodland for sale? Wonderful. Coming into Whitley. Lovely early spring evening. Well, the village is actually Wormley, but it has a station called Whitley. Google this place for more information. It's interesting. Now on a section of the Greensand Way. Right, 9:14, 9.14 miles, 3 hours 29. And as you can see, I've just made it by the skin of my teeth to catch this train home. Or back to Waterloo anyway. Excellent walk that. Not too bad underfoot. I don't remember much of it, but not to worry. A very good walk. Highly recommended. Until the next time.